In the primordial age, when time had yet to be named and space was still a distant concept, only God existed. He is an omnipotent, omniscient entity, eternally existing in infinite glory. From within his very being, all ideas of beauty, goodness, and life were formed. Every good thing we have, from the warm sunshine to the cool breeze, from the majestic mountain peaks to the delicate flowers, are all products of his wisdom and love. But before the distant galaxies were woven from sparkling stardust, before the first sun blazed brightly, God performed his first act of creation. It was not of tangible matter that the naked eye could see. His first work was of spiritual creatures, radiant and pure beings created from his own thoughts. They were spiritual beings similar to him, existing in a sacred heaven, a place where light and truth reigned supreme. Our eyes cannot see them, just as we cannot see God. The Bible calls them angels. They were created to live with him, to worship him, and to carry out his will in the universe. Among the countless angels created, there was one who was exceptionally special, the first and greatest creation. That was the firstborn Son of God. He is the visible image of the invisible God, the most perfect reflection of his Father. A deep connection, a boundless love has existed between the Father and the Son from the very beginning. This Son was not just a passive observer in the great creation that followed, but he was also a partner, a capable collaborator alongside his Father. He was God's master worker, the one through whom all things were made. Together with the Father, the Son participated in the creation of all things. Imagine a grand painting created by two talented artists. God was the one who sketched the ideas, the endless source of inspiration, while the Son was the one who turned those ideas into reality. He helped his Father create the spiral galaxies, the colorful nebulae, and the trillions of stars that sparkle like diamonds on the velvet cloak of the universe. He helped God establish the laws of physics, the laws that govern the operation of the universe, from the orbits of the planets to the gravitational force that holds them together. He helped God make the sun a giant ball of fire to bestow light and warmth for the day. Then he helped create the moon, the gentle companion of the night, along with countless stars to adorn the night sky, making it even more magical. And then, in God's great plan, there was a special place reserved for a new kind of creation. That was the earth. God wanted to create a beautiful planet, a home for mankind, creatures made in his image. The Son, together with the Father, began the work of creating this globe. But what was the state of the earth at that time? In the beginning, no one could live on earth. It was not the green planet we know today. Imagine a giant sphere shrouded in thick darkness through which no ray of light could penetrate. Its surface was completely covered by a vast, turbulent, and fierce ocean. There was no land, no mountains, no valleys. There was only water, an endless sea with no beginning and no end. The atmosphere was thick with toxic gases in which no living creature could survive. It was a desolate, empty, and formless world. The Bible describes that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, indicating a hidden energy, a creative power preparing for a miraculous transformation. God looked at the chaotic earth, and he knew that there was still much work to be done. He wanted to turn it into a Garden of Eden, a perfect place for his future children. He was not in a hurry, because every great work requires time and careful preparation. Therefore, he began to prepare everything for us. First, the earth needed light. In that thick darkness, no life could sprout. So by his powerful word, a command that echoed throughout the chaotic space, God said, "Let there be light." And immediately, the light from the sun, which had been created before, began to pierce through the earth's thick atmosphere. The first rays of sunshine, warm and brilliant, shone down on the vast sea, dispelling the darkness that had reigned for ages. The light danced on the white-capped waves, creating an unprecedentedly magnificent scene. God saw that the light was good. He made the earth have both day and night, separating the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness night. Thus, the first day and night passed, creating the first rhythm for the young planet, a cycle of life and rest. After there was light, God's next task was to create land. He did not want people to have to live adrift on the water. He wanted them to have a solid foundation on which to build their houses, cultivate crops, and live. By his power, he caused the land to rise out of the sea. A great geological transformation took place. From the depths of the deep ocean, huge tectonic plates began to shift, colliding with each other. Towering mountain ranges slowly rose from the water. Vast plateaus were formed and deep valleys were created. Water from all over poured into the low-lying areas, forming the oceans and seas that we know today. For the first time, the earth took on the shape of a planet with both land and sea. God called the dry ground land and the gathered waters seas. And he saw that it was good. In the beginning there was nothing on the land. It looked like an unfinished sketch. The surface of the earth was just bare rocks, vast sandy deserts, and dormant volcanoes. There were no flowers, trees, or animals. There was not a single green tree for shade, not a single flower showing its colors, not a single blade of tender grass. The air was still thin and harsh. There was no sound of birds chirping, no sound of insects chirping, no roar of wild animals. Silence reigned everywhere, a terrifying silence. Even in the sea, there were no fish. Although the water was clear blue and sparkling under the sun, there were still no living creatures. There were no schools of fish swimming freely, no colorful coral reefs, no mysterious creatures of the deep sea. It was all just an empty space waiting to be filled with life. God looked at his unfinished work with loving eyes. He knew that this was only the beginning. He still had much to do to make the earth beautiful for animals and people to live on. His mind had already envisioned green meadows stretching to the horizon, dense forests with all kinds of trees and flowers of all colors, giving off fragrant scents. He had imagined gentle winding rivers, clear blue lakes like jade, and majestic waterfalls cascading from on high. He also thought of the countless species of animals that would inhabit this planet. From the large beasts in the deep forests to the small birds flying in the sky, from the brightly colored schools of fish in the ocean to the tiny insects hidden in the ground. Each species had a role, a unique place in the complex and balanced ecosystem that he had designed. And above all, he eagerly awaited the day he would create man, the pinnacle of his creation. They would be made in his image, capable of thinking, loving, and worshiping. They would be given dominion over the earth to care for and preserve it. God's creation was not a spontaneous act, but a process that was meticulously planned and perfectly executed. Each stage was carried out at the right time in the right order. From creating light separating land and sea to preparing for life to sprout, all showed the infinite wisdom and power of the Creator. The first chapter of Earth's history closed with a scene that was both majestic and wild. A world had been shaped, a stage had been set ready for the next performances of life. And in the silence of the third dawn, a promise of a beautiful future, a world full of life and color was quietly waiting to be fulfilled. The song of creation was still being written, and the most wonderful things were yet to come.